Hello, welcome to another episode of Daily Market Mastery with me, Christian Rauchenwald, on this mediocre Wednesday afternoon. I hope you all had a great trading week so far. As always, before we jump into the markets and my portfolio, let's get the usual disclaimer out of the way first. Everything that I share during this live stream / video is my personal opinion and in no way financial or professional advice of any kind. You should always do your own research, consult certified professionals, draw your own conclusions, and make your own decisions. Besides that, all the tools that I'm using, so the broker, the charting software, the strategy I'm following, and so on, are all linked in the video description down below. And the one thing I truly recommend, outside of obviously liking, subscribing, and enabling notifications, is that you check out the Elliott Wave Principle if you haven't done so in the past. You can read this wonderful book for free when you use the link in the description down below, and you can use the same link to also get yourself a physical copy. With that said, we can actually jump into my portfolio. Well, press that button here. And as you can see, we have another slightly, as you can see, you cannot see. Okay, 1 second, gonna address that real quick. Desktop main is this one. Yes, okay, there we go. And desktop center is this one. No, it's this one. Right is then this one. Okay. And then there we go. So studio mode disabled. So yeah, so as you can see, we have a slightly green start into, or a break even start into the day with a green touch. If we jump into the markets, by the way, I'm happy to report that I opened a ticket with Motive Wave regarding the issue that we have with some of our charts not loading, like for example, Barnes & Noble Education Inc. And either way, our biggest position is still GameStop. So the one thing that matters the most, we hopefully still get a new data. As I pointed out, the moment we were about yesterday, we were somewhere here, and I pointed out it looks more likely that wave 4 hasn't finished yet, and that we therefore have our wave A, wave B, and are currently in wave C. You can see that the minimum target for wave C theoretically is here, but it should make a new low, which puts it in the area here. So I would expect that we hit the 78.6 retracement, maybe spike briefly through it, so 22.73, before we finally see a further increase and a fifth wave. Which also means that once the markets open in around 30 seconds, I can check again if it's worth rolling our options either out or just down. Obviously, because this way we might even be able to roll them back a little bit in time and down, as long as we can do it for a credit and not too far down. But with the break or the breaking of this here, it just leaves basically options that point towards at least short-term further downside. So I feel like this is going to be an interesting thing to do, at least. So I'm going to check that already. So markets are going to open soon. So we would have to buy back our March 28 $37 calls. And in return for that, we could, for example, I don't think we can roll them down to February 28 because that would be in 2 days. We can see that the bid ask here is 50 to 170. So we would need to actually roll them in the money to achieve something similar, which we don't want to do unless we would be really, really certain that we fall another $1 by then, and we don't want to risk that. However, outside of February 28, if we roll to March 27, we kind of like have the similar issue here. We can see that, even if we roll them to $25, you can see that it still would be for a small debit. So that's not going to help. March 14 would, however, already be a credit if we roll them to March 14, and March 14 would be here and $25, which obviously is something we don't want to do. Ideally, we want to roll them down, but still stay at 30. So let's see. So if we roll them down to 30, this here is most likely a debit, yes. But if we then pick March 21st, still a debit, and if we pick March 28, it's a minor credit. Yeah, so we keep the same expiration. Okay, so in this case, we keep the options the way they are for now. I mean, we can also check the possibility of rolling them out. Yeah, but this way, because we see if we don't want to go below the 30 strike price, we could only roll them with the same expiration date, but we give up $7 of potential profit if there were a surprising rally or spike in price. So the other option is obviously to roll them out, for example, April 4th. So April 4th would be 37 days. And if we roll them out we can see that we get a little bit more credit, but theoretically we would have to roll them out ideally for the same or a higher strike price. So which would be here, in this case, a debit even, which makes no sense whatsoever. Or if we roll them to 35, still theoretically a debit. So we can see, which is surprising, so the April 4th options for $35 strike price are cheaper at the moment than the March 28 $37 strike price, which makes no sense because obviously you could exercise those earlier because the strike price is $2 lower, and you have basically a week longer for it to reach the strike price. So probably my own fault, as said, for at first writing $37 calls, which are not that, in quotes, popular. So which leads to a weird behavior in price. If we roll them for the same strike price out for a week, it would also be for a debit, which also makes no sense. So we can see here that, again, March 28, the options are more expensive than for April 4th. Yeah, so we'll keep the option the way it is. And we just, I'm going to have a sip, and then we just are going to look further. Might be a short stream today with still having the issues that some of the charts are not loading, and with GameStop pretty much just moving along. I have to say, while we've made decent profits since I switched to Interactive Broker in the middle of May, with the longer dated options, the streams or the content in the streams becomes a little bit like not less interesting, but we obviously have less movement because our positions don't have to be adjusted that often. It also feels like we give up some flexibility for some potentially higher premium. Although if we write weekly calls and depending on the price movement, the premium we can realize is or should actually be overall higher. So if we were to check, for example, right now, and we just go for a 10-day expiration, we can see that $30 calls, okay, don't get us that much, but still would get us $120 in a week roughly. And yeah, so I feel like we might switch to weekly options again, which also gives us the wiggle room that if there's a surprising movement to the upside and we don't want to give up our shares, we should be able to roll it out then to 40-day expiration still for a credit. But yeah, which means most likely till March 28, we might not adjust our position unless we can really get a decent credit, which is a pity because it means we don't earn any option premium in that time. Yeah? As far as options go, we also have our NEO calls here, but I mean, there's not much point. So they are April 17th. So they already are 50 days out, $7. We could theoretically, if we buy them back, and instead, if we look at NEO, I mean, if this is now the bottom, we might actually start to see the increase here, and our April 17th options are here, 17, so roughly here in time. Sorry, which means that, yeah, we could roll them down by $1 maybe. Not sure if that gets us some premium. So let's see if we basically say we roll them down to 6. But yeah, I mean, that's not worth the effort. So it earns us an astonishing $5. So although that also sums up over time, but okay, then we also just leave that as it is. Yeah. Now let's see if we BNet, can we get a chart window working like this? Yes, we can. Surprisingly, it's really weird. Oh, now I zoomed by mistake in the wrong direction, so it's going to take a moment. Or maybe let's close this. So and do this again. BNet, more chart window. Oh, I used NEO before instead of BNet. Yeah, so yeah, BNet, we don't get a chart, unfortunately. As long as I think our price here was 831 that we're waiting for, or that we want to stay above. So NEO, however, as said, we are hopeful that finally we reach the bottom and our 100 shares will slowly appreciate in value. And as they do, we keep selling cash secured puts, not cash secured, covered calls, of course, writing covered calls against those shares. Costs, yeah, we are in a waiting position, unchanged. Immersion, we're waiting for a little bit further of a push down. between here, so 50%, 61.8 retracement. Green wave not relevant in most cases, so there we have a small position that was a gamble that failed, and anyway, don't get a chart. And what else do we have? Amazon. Yeah, so might be either the half of the retracement or the end of the retracement. I said the target area that I see is still 250. Yeah, like from when we originally made that forecast around 200, we basically almost reached the target area before this correction. We would have to look closer here, which we're not going to do during the stream. XYO should have said now hit the minimum target for the wave C. There's still a potential for a little bit further move down before we go further up. XRP, we don't care. Algorand, yeah, like hit the 61.8 retracement. Could potentially be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So in quotes, yeah, last chance to enter. As I mentioned yesterday, around 20 would be probably a good entry point. Visually, yeah, like visually this looks like this is the completed wave C, and we should now basically get 1, 2, 3, 4, and wave 5. In which case the target area for wave 5 would be, as we can see here, around minimum target around 61, 62 cents, so around 300% upside. Obviously, if you were to enter here, you still have around 50% risk for if we go below 10 cents, then the pattern becomes invalid, and you would have to close your or close your position and take your losses. But outside of that, it looks like we finished the correction right now and should get then up here in the next couple of months. Yeah. So do we have anything else that I'm really annoyed that some of the charts are not working, so we cannot cover all the positions that we have during the stream as effectively as we should be able to. And on top of that, obviously, yeah, like, yeah, not annoyed by GameStop. Obviously, I mean, it was to be expected that we'll get a fourth wave. I thought it might have been finished here, but turns out I was wrong, so we'll just have to wait a little bit longer. I'm still bullish on GameStop, so I still believe, I don't know, maybe go in a weekly chart for a change. So I still believe that basically, yeah, like we have more upside to come here. What alternative would there be? I actually don't see a real alternative. So I see correction here, and then weeklies maybe too long, 3-day chart. So basically up, down, and here we should slowly go further up. And yeah, so I don't see many other options here. And as long as I have that bullish outlook, I will just hold the shares, write covered calls, and ideally pocket the premium. Yeah. If there are no requests from the chat, which it appears there aren't, then I probably will call it a day. I have a few other things on the list to do. Portfolio I said is unchanged, so it's a little bit boring to just repeat the same thing over and over again, especially since we cannot dive into a few things that I actually want to dive because the charts are not loading. Hopefully I hear back from Motive Wave maybe by tomorrow already, but I guess worst case by next week the issue should be sorted out, and we can then also spend more time labeling other things again. So yeah, outside of that, I hope you were still able to take something away from today's stream. And yeah, don't forget, like, subscribe, enable notifications so you don't miss out on future videos and streams. And with that, I'm going to wish you a pleasant and successful rest of the trading day, and see you all in one of my other streams. Till then, bye-bye.